this morning? How many of you really believe that God is able? I know I'm in church. Help me, Lord. Help me, Lord. As one comedian says, you say it with your chest. Right? How many of you can say with your life that God is able, because he brought you a mighty long way when it didn't seem like there was anybody you could call on, when there was no one to turn to, when you didn't know the answer, but you got into your closet, or however it is, you made contact with God, and you learned that in the midst of the storm, God is able. You found out that in the midst of the bad information, God is able. You found out with the pink slip in your hand that God is able. You found out with the eviction notice on your door that God is able. You didn't know until you came outside and your car was gone and you had a new car that God was able. When things were turned upside down, it only takes the presence and power of God to put them right side up. And we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that God is able. It's simply a matter of our recognizing the truth of what God has been into and through each and every one of us. God is able. God is stable. God is reliable. God is doable. God is bigger than any situation, challenge, or circumstance that we may be facing. When you don't know what to do, just turn to God, because your answer is in the presence of God that is within you. I don't know about you, but when it comes to the violence on our streets, I really do believe that God is able. I think the answer is found right within the midst of us, but it helps to know who we are and whose we are, and it's good to know that we have a God that's able. Thank you. Man, I've heard the men's group called by about 4 or 5 different names. I think we're gonna have to go ahead and come up with an official name so that we'll know what to call these fantastic men of God. God bless you, and thanks to each and every one of you. Thank you for saying yes to this moment, to this opportunity, and to what God is doing right now in the midst of us. I bless each and every one of you. Anthony, God bless you, man. That was wonderful. You blessed us real good this morning. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's easy to find somebody doing something wrong. And the news is full of reports about folk who do stuff wrong. But sometimes you just got to take a moment and celebrate folk who do stuff right. As we were preparing to enter into this 2-part lesson, it's just a revisit of the fivefold purpose of Christ Universal Temple. And on yesterday, I attended Chicago Praise. And Chicago Praise is essentially a gathering of churches just to add a spiritual aspect to that which we see occurring in our streets, in our neighborhoods, in our communities. And as I was sitting there and having the opportunity to hear from some of the great voices in our city, and knowing that on today we would be talking about the purpose for which a Christ Universal Temple was established. And anytime you talk about purposes, specifically in an organizational setting, you're really talking about why does that thing exist. When you're talking about purpose, it boils down to a single question: why does that exist? Why does Christ Universal Temple exist? And as I was sitting there and just having an opportunity to really just sort of ponder what we see, it fell upon me unequivocally that there is a purpose and the time, and that time is now, for the message and ministry and truth principles that a Christ Universal Temple proclaims. I submit to you if for no other reason than because it happened to me, that if you can get a hold of this truth, and if this truth can get a hold of you, it can transform our neighborhoods. I believe that. And so as we enter into really the remembrance, we say that the primary cause of suffering is what? The primary cause of suffering is forgetfulness. And sometimes in the busyness of church, you can find yourself doing all kinds of stuff, none of which may even line up with the purpose for which you exist. But as I understand it, God gave to our founder, the Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman, a purpose for this church. And in the movie Malcolm X, there's a line where Malcolm is in the coffee shop and he just had an experience, and the young man comes up to him, he's on fire, and he says, "I'm ready to join." And Malcolm says, "Well, what do you know about us?" "Well, I don't know much." "Well, you really shouldn't be a part of anything that you don't know a lot about." Yes? And so it's just important for us to remember, because in 58, going on 59 years, you can forget a lot. But the purpose for which we exist is the purpose that God gave Reverend Coleman, and Reverend Coleman gave and taught to us. It's a fivefold purpose. It's a fivefold purpose. If you have your bulletin in front of you, let's take them together. We'll start at the top and work our way to the right. Do you have your bulletin in front of you? So let's go together. So the fivefold purpose of CUT, starting at the top of the star, is teaching and preaching, prayer, healing, service, and fellowship. Now, these are not necessarily in any particular order of importance, but simply they are there to illustrate to you what is the functional purpose of this organism that God manifested through Reverend Coleman called Christ Universal Temple. So when we look at the purpose, or the fivefold purpose for Christ Universal Temple, we are looking at what it is we are here to do and why we exist. We exist out of the manifestation of the purpose to teach and preach, to pray, to facilitate healing, to serve, and for fellowship. That's what our fivefold purpose is. I didn't make it up. It's in your bulletin, right? But Dr. Carl Frost tells a story about an experience he had in Nigeria in the late 1960s, when electricity was just being brought to the village, and each family got a single light bulb in their hut. And this was a real sign of progress in Nigeria. But the problem was that at night, many of the members of the tribes, and though they could not read, and though they didn't have anything to read, they would spend their evenings at night looking up at the light bulb in awe. Now, when they started the practice of looking at the light bulb, this practice replaced the customary nighttime gatherings by the tribal fire, where the tribal storytellers, the elders, would share and pass along the history of the tribe. And so the moral of the story is, we cannot get so caught up in the light bulb that we missed the history or the foundational elements of who we are. Does that make sense? So let's now get into what it is we do and why we do it. The first thing says teaching and preaching, and from your bulletin it reads, we teach the principles taught by our wayshower, Jesus the Christ. Our lessons are the key to soul expansion. Our lesson sermons are designed to teach, inspire, and uplift. So we teach the principles taught by our wayshower, Jesus the Christ. Our lesson sermons are the key to soul expansion. Our lesson sermons are designed to teach, to inspire, and uplift you. But why has God called, out of all of the churches everywhere, why has God called CUT to be a teaching ministry? I'm glad you asked. God called CUT to be a teaching ministry because the message of Christ Universal Temple is uniquely positioned to be taught to you. And by that I mean it is a teaching, not in the sense that we are putting anything in you, but that we are directing you back to the presence and power of God that is in you and pulling out, extracting out, leading out from within that which God placed in you. So when it comes to our telling you about who you are and whose you are, we didn't make it up. We didn't put it in you. We simply want to point you back to the truth and help you extract out of the depths of your soul all of the goodness that is within there. What you may not realize is that there is a treasure trove of goodies down in your soul. But if you don't know who you are and whose you are, and you have no skill in excavating, you could think that you are less than you are. And so God saw fit to call this woman to teach. He called her to teach. He called her to be a channel by which the minds of the people who would be attracted would be enlightened. He called her to light the bulb, but not for us to get stuck looking at the light bulb. See, if you are not careful, can I talk to you real today? See, if you are not careful, you will get caught staring at what you've done and you will stop working. If you are not mindful, the greatness that you erected can become a museum. And if the museum only has visitors who want to see history, then there is no more room for God to move. But God does not stop, and God did not call you to stop. If this is a teaching ministry, then it is intended for you to get better. And when we say better, we mean happy, healthy, and prosperous. When we say better, we specifically mean happy, healthy, and prosperous. What does that mean, and what does that look like to you? That means, like, to you, if you come in here broken down, busted, and disgusted, you should leave fresh to death. What does that mean to you? That means to you, if you can't find the right people to hang out in your space, when you come here, by the time you leave here, everybody should want to kick it with you. What does that mean to you? If you can't find the right job, you can't attract the ideas to start your own business. What does that look like to you? See, you can't go every place, and I'm not knocking anybody's anything. But some places are not about you getting better. Some places are about you staying exactly where you are. This is not that place. Why a teaching ministry? And what do we teach? We are purposed to interpret and explain the divine law. To interpret and explain the divine law. Here it is. If you get the understanding of divine law, if you really come to understand how it works, I'm not talking about reading the book. Reading the book is good. I'm not talking about attending the class. Attending the class is good. I'm not talking about coming to the church with people of like consciousness. All of that stuff is good. But if you do all of that stuff and you don't get the understanding, you won't make the demonstration. And so this is not the come and observe the show place. For as much as I love what we do, nobody needs you to just come around and watch. If you are not committed to coming and helping grab hold of your own bootstraps so you can get better, then you're wasting your time. This is a teaching ministry. You should not come into this place on one day, January 1st, and at the end of the year be the same, whatever you were before. This is not that kind of place. This is a transformational place. If you're addicted when you walk in the door, you should be kicking by the time you leave. Can I really talk to you? 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 If you give your stuff away to people who don't deserve it when you get here. See, y'all just got real holy on me. By the time you leave, you should know that only certain people can spend time in your special place. Whatever that means to you. This is a teaching ministry. We want you to understand how to apply the divine universal laws that God has established so that you can live the life God created you to live. We don't need you to just come and stare and watch at what has been done. What has been done is the foundation that we build on, but if we stop right there, I assure you, you die before too long. Can you deal with it today? Because listen, check out where I am. I'm done playing. I'm through with that. I did that for 4 years. That's over for me. Yeah, no. I'm done with that. I don't have any time to play. The hour is getting late and darkness is setting upon us, and we have got to be about the Father's business in a very new and progressive way. This is Christ's Universal Temple. We have always been at the forefront and on the cutting edge. We are innovators at the depths of our souls, and we will not stand back and watch other people try to lead when we were destined to lead. Not me. I don't roll like that. That's not how I get down. Not me. I don't do mediocre. I don't do average. I don't do subpar. That's not me. I don't get down like that. Sorry. You got the wrong one if you think that's me. I don't do that. And I don't believe God called me to lead us to do that. Can't settle for giving people what they used to need. Who needs an irrelevant church? Nobody. No, not this place. Not this light unto all humanity. This is God's teaching church. God called this place to teach. That's our purpose. That's what we do. You come here, you sit long enough, you're going to learn something. And whether you think you're learning or not, here is the good news. The test comes whether you're prepared or not. I would not have you be so naive as to think you could sit under a truth like this and not have the exam someday. I would not make you believe that at some point when you least expected, the pop quiz pops up. Oh no. You don't get to sit under this kind of truth without your soul demanding that you prove the truth that you know. Sorry, baby. This just ain't about looking cute. No, indeed. This is about demonstration. Don't tell me what you're about. Show me what you do through your demonstration. Don't tell me how long you've been here. That doesn't mean anything. There was a guy sitting by the pool for 38 years, had been sitting there waiting for somebody to pick him up. Waiting for somebody to pick him up. Let me help you with this. Waiting for somebody else to pick him up and do for him what he was well equipped to do for himself. There is no merit because you've been around for a long time. I'm not saying it like that. Now don't get funny on me. Don't get funny on me. This is not that lesson. But I do want to keep it real with you. I borrowed this one from my guy. I'm going to go ahead and use it anyway. Here is how you know that being around a long time does not necessarily equate to demonstration. Raise your hand if your name is Methuselah. Raise your hand if your kids' names are Methuselah. Raise your hand if your grandkid's name is Methuselah. Raise your hand if you know anybody named Methuselah. You know somebody? Get out. No, I'm just kidding. That's bad. I'm just kidding. I take that back. I'm just kidding. No. But seriously, it's a teaching ministry. Our instruction is intended to help you find your oneness with Christ. Our instruction is intended to help you find your oneness with Christ. It is not about me, and it was not about Reverend Coleman. The power was in that she discovered for herself her oneness with Christ, and she helped many of us discover for ourselves our oneness with Christ. And so that is what we do. We help you to discover your oneness with Christ, not about somebody else doing for you what you are infinitely equipped to do for yourself. Are you still with me? But the learner, adult or otherwise, the learner has an obligation in the learning experience. You have an obligation in the learning experience. As I said previously, it is not just about you coming to receive. If I can really turn you on to something, if you really want to take your life to the next level, when you come to this place, don't just come open to receive, come open to give. When you come to this place, have your mind set to pray soon as you hit the campus. When you come into this place, let the mind of God speak to you and know who you should be praying for, or who you should be affirming for, or who you should be agreeing with as folks pass you by. You want to really take your thing to the next level, give yourself away in service to God through God's people. You want to become rich, help somebody else become rich. You want to become famous, help somebody else become famous. You want to become healed, help somebody else become healed. That is what this place is about. Correction. One of the things I love about this place is that folks don't mind correcting you. No, I mean that sincerely. I think one of the first times I chaired, my scripture said, I don't remember exactly what the scripture was, but the word sword, right? Sword. But it's, yeah, you're vibing with me. So I said sword because the W is right there. I can see it. Right? Phonetically, that W, but it's really silent. And so my teacher, Reverend Evelyn Boyd, said, let me talk to you, baby. Let me talk to you. You know that word is sword, don't you? Oh, well, I thought I did, right? But that is the culture. That is the culture of the Christ Universal Temple, the kind of excellence. Let me say thank you to the Reverend Dr. Helen Carey for establishing a consciousness of excellence in the culture of Christ Universal Temple. Let me tell you what I heard Reverend Coleman say from her mouth to my ears. It would not have been possible. It would not have been possible if it were not for a Helen. You have no idea. If I could really, I don't have a whole lot of time, but here is why you ought to be praying for her. Because you have no idea how many arrows she took in helping you get better. You got no idea how many folks criticized her because she wanted to help you get better. You got no idea how much flack she took because she knew a standard of excellence was necessary in order for a church led by a woman in a city powered by men to take the forefront and be what it was established to be. You just don't think about it, but you've got no idea of what kind of impact she had. Now watch this, watch this, watch this, watch this. That's a part of the foundation. So where we don't measure up, we can't not measure up. If excellence is the bar, then anything below excellence is unacceptable. We're not going to lower the bar. We work too hard to get it up there. Am I right about it? Are you, but here is what I need to know from you. Are you in? Yeah, don't just yes me. Don't just yes me as a part of the sermon. I really need to know, are you in? Because it takes all of us, just like it took all of us before to do what we did. Let me keep going. We are a teaching ministry, but we are also a preaching ministry. It's in the purpose. It's in the purpose. It's in the purpose. It didn't just happen when I showed up. It's in the purpose. We are a teaching and preaching ministry. That is a part of our fivefold purpose. But in the New Thought context, there is a negative connotation around this notion of preaching. Don't ask me why, I don't know why. But there is a negative connotation around this idea of preaching. But let me just talk to you briefly about what we mean when we say preaching. When we're talking about preaching, we're talking about the exhortation or the moving you from where you are to where God would have you be. When we are talking about preaching to you, it's not about breathing extra long and saying a bunch of things over and over to you, but instead it's about helping you move from where you are to where you are to be. Here is what I'm trying to help you to understand. You were not intended to stay the same. You were not intended to pick up the spot where you are and plant yourself there. God does not need you to be still until it's time for you to be still. Other than that, you are to be moving, because just like God, life is in you, and the activity of God as life seeks to move you. Now, when we preach, our preaching is a little bit different. Our preaching is a little bit different. Our homily or our homiletic style is more topical. Right? Our homiletic style is a little more topical. Our hermeneutic, I know these might be words that you are not aware of, but it's okay. Breathe, get over it, let's keep rolling. Our hermeneutic is a hermeneutic of metaphysics. Our hermeneutic is a hermeneutic of metaphysics. What does that mean? That means that when we look at a thing, when we look at a scripture, when we look at an experience, when we look at an episode, we don't take it on face value. It does not matter what Paul said it said. We take a look at it from a metaphysical perspective, because we understand that there is something beyond or above the letter of the word. Now, this isn't here, right? This isn't here. Here. Understand that this is our book. Don't let anybody tell you we don't teach the Bible. That's nonsense. Just because we don't teach it like you teach it, don't mean we don't teach it. Right? Because if I don't raise my kids like you raise your kids, that don't mean I didn't raise my kids. We got something to show for what we do with ours. So our hermeneutic is a hermeneutic of metaphysics. We understand that there is something beyond what is appearing. Yes? We teach what Jesus taught. We teach the universal spiritual principles, the same ones that Jesus taught. We teach universal spiritual principles. They ask you what we teach. We teach universal spiritual principles. We didn't make them up. They come right from the scripture. Right? When we say that God is omnipresent, you might hear Jesus saying, "Our Father." When we say that man is divine, you might hear Jesus saying, "Have I not said that ye are gods?" When you hear us saying there is value and power in thought, now I'm going to go to Paul, but you hear Paul saying, let this mind be in you that was also in Christ Jesus. When you hear us saying that you must pray, meditate, and sit in the silence, hear Jesus saying, when you pray this way. When we say that the laws of your consciousness show up, hear Jesus saying, if you have faith and believe and say to the mountain. Now, I dig what he's saying, because he's saying you don't have to climb the mountain, just say to the mountain. And it will be picked up and moved out of your way. I don't know what your mountain is today, but you got to start speaking truth to your mountain. You got to start sharing universal spiritual principles with your mountain. Don't let your mountain talk to you and you clam up and get all quiet. Because if you're not careful, your mountain will make you think that it's bigger than your God. But you got to say to that mountain, little silly mountain, I know you're big and I've made you out to be bigger in my mind. But you just don't know the God that I know. Little mountain, you don't know how I came through when it looked like I was not gonna make it. Little mountain, you might as well go ahead and be cast down into the sea, because you can't stop me from being and doing what God created me to be and do. Little mountain, you ain't got nothing on me. Little mountain, you can't see me. You got to talk to the mountain. Help deconstruct the mountains that you built in your life. God is able. That's what they sang. And it's not just a song, it's a truth. God is bigger than the challenges that you face. But if you keep studying the problem, you will become a master of it. Yeah, I'm going to let that one sit in on you. We are proponents, leaders of this idea of better living. It came through here and then spread out to other places. But let me just drop this dime on you before I go. The fact that it started with you does not mean that it will stay with you, especially if you are not a good steward of what God gave you. Here is what I mean. See, while we were talking about what preaching is and isn't, folks who could preach got a hold of what you teach. And when those folks who preach got a hold of what you teach, they start turning the world upside down with your stuff. But God is no respecter of persons, and so anybody who will make themselves available for what God is ready to do in a given season can open the floodgates and experience the joy of the Lord. What I'm saying to you is there are some preconceived notions that we carry. We don't even know we have them, but we carry them, and they can inhibit what God is doing in this season. I don't know about you, but I'm really trying to get out of the way, so whatever it is God is planning to do, he can do right here and right now. And whatever it is, I don't want it done without me. If God is doing a new thing, I want to be a part of that. If God is blessing folk anew, I want to be a part of that. If there is a mighty new wind blowing, I want some to slap me in the face. I don't know about you, but I'm ready to get what I'm supposed to be getting and do what I'm supposed to be doing and be what I'm supposed to be. It's time out. It's over for pretending New Thought Christians, hiding, afraid to say what it is they are and what it is they're about. But folk who preach good don't have a problem taking yours, sprinkling it in and presenting it to the world. The world is more than ready for what you have to say. Does Chicago need Christ Universal Temple? Heck yeah. And I really want to say it another way, but I'm in church. You kidding me? Are you kidding me? The collective consciousness of this place provides balance. But, say but it's time for us to take another step. It is, it's just time. It's time for us to take another step. The community is where the people are. They need what you got. And stop pretending like you had it before you got here. See, that's the challenge. That's the challenge with people who are hanging out in the museum. They start to think that it belongs to them. But where would you be if you had not come across this truth? What would your life be like if you hadn't found this woman? What would your home be like if you didn't know how to get into your quiet space when the crazies come out? You have to be open to the community. That's where God's people are. You are the example that's supposed to help them know how to be better. How would they get it unless somebody teach them? I'll take you back to the beginning. You are a teaching ministry. And no teaching ministry worth its salt hides its basket of light under a bushel. You can't take the truth and get it for yourself and say, hooray me, I got mine, you get yours. No. There's a responsibility with knowing the truth. You don't get to just go and hide and say, look at what we did and then stop. That's not how it goes. No. People are suffering. People are struggling. People are dying. And you got the vaccine and you want to keep it to yourself. No, that's not how it goes. Not us. We say we all who want it should come. Now you can't pick and choose what that looks like. You can't just say we want good people, but Bebe and Junebug and Maymay and them, we don't want them. Overlooking the fact that you got Maymay and Junebug and Lil Tone Tone. Those are your people. That's why you don't want them to come to church. I don't want nobody to know that's my kid. If you see me in church, don't come by me. Stay over there with your mama and them. You got too much good stuff. Christ Universal Temple, you got too much good stuff. The city needs you. The community needs you. The country needs you. Our children, they need us. I can't imagine what my life would be like if I had not come from the street to Christ Universal Temple. I don't know what it would be like. But here's what I do know. There is some redemptive value in this place. When you get here, it doesn't matter what you were. The only thing that matters is what you can set your mind to be. So we can help them. We can help them, but we can't keep it to ourselves. No, you can still be cute and high class and all of that and still teach. Don't tell me you can't do it. I saw her do it. I saw her do it. I saw all of them do it. I know it can be done. I do it. CUT, the time is out for playing. We'll be 59 in October, 30 in this location. The number of lives that have been blessed are off the charts. But God is not a God of yesterday alone. God does not stop and is not stopping from what God is prepared to do through this channel called Christ Universal Temple. God didn't call you to be great for 59 years and then say, no, I'm done. No, we have to decide that we are not done. And I don't know about you, but as for me and my house, we will be about the Father's business. So it's going to look how it's going to look. It's going to sound how it's going to sound. It's going to feel how it's going to feel. And we're going to do what God has called us to do in this season because God is not done with us yet. God bless you.